once again, me and you doing our little thing, doing what we do best, coming together every week to listen to me rant, ramble, and rock. Okay? Welcome back to the Sound Furious podcast. I am your host, Phil Bevers. And thank you once again for coming in. It's nice to be back. It's good to be back in the seat, back in the new lighting setup. Isn't it so saucy? Isn't it so suave? Don't you just love to see me in all this sweet lighting? I know you like it, because I do too. Let's get right down into it. Um, I have been thinking about this a lot, to be quite honest with you. Because I saw a clip from Van Wilder. If you don't know what Van Wilder is, it was a movie. Actually, I found out it was based off of Burt Kreischer, which is the comedian who's like just, frat dude, grown up, insane beer belly, right? That kind of guy. And there's like humor in there sometimes about dudes wanting to fuck twin sisters, and I don't get that. First off, two of the same person would make me think that I was on something or that I was having like a weird fever dream, right? Second off, bro, you want incest around you. That's weird as fuck. Like, regardless if you think it's like, oh, they're like the same person, so it's like having two of the same person. It's not though. They're two different people, and you know that at the end of the day. So that's fucking weird, man. That's weird. You want incest to happen in front of you, not even just cousin, but like sibling. That makes me want to die, dude. That makes me want to die immediately. I don't understand it. It's one thing to like joke. I don't even think it's that funny. Like in Austin Powers, he talks about it. Fook me and fook you. Like that's I just don't get it, I guess. I think it also becomes from growing up in Texas. Oh my god, that was a crazy sound. Growing up in Texas and being from the South, and then, you think about it because you're like, that's a stereotype that is about us. And I know of people who've had it or done it. I don't know how you even say it because it's a crime. Um, but I myself would rather be deceased, obviously. It's crazy that you even have to say that, but some people are wild, and that is not just an American thing. That's actually a really big European thing. So, we don't have to get into that, I guess. But um, I think I have like, I go out of my way. I don't even want to be with it because it's like it's so gross to think about it. I don't even want to like consume media even if it talks negatively. It's just like Game of Thrones was rough, and I'm gonna have a hard time watching House of the Dragon because it's like it's the whole thing. That's like the whole thing is incest, and that I'm good, right? I'm good. I'm good. I don't need to be around that constantly. I don't need that to be inside of my head. I don't want to be thinking about that. I don't want to have to excuse that to enjoy a show. That's crazy. And I think anyone would agree with me that that's crazy. That you have to suspend your disbelief of thinking incest is gross, or your belief of thinking incest is gross, and try and be okay with it for the sake of character development. Ah, having a hard time with that one, right? Having a real hard time with that one. And I think that that's okay that I'm having a hard time with that. I don't think there's anyone out there that would be like, "Wow, man, really? Oh, that's where you draw the line?" Obviously. Obviously. Right. But yeah, I always thought that that was a weird thing because I know, like, even from I also like have a sister, so it's like, ugh, right? Ugh. I knew these two fraternal twins. One was male, one was a guy, one was a girl. The male female thing now. I always feel like I'm turning in like I sound like one of those guys that's like females be like all females need to know that why are you calling women females? Why are you doing that? You're not talking about some weird animal species, right? You're not a biologist. You're not a biologist. You sell weed to high schoolers, okay? You don't need to be saying all that. You know, you spend your free time trying to figure out which European soccer player is your favorite and why that matters, because it doesn't. I'm going to say right now, fuck soccer. Fuck soccer. How about that? Fuck soccer. Fuck soccer. Fuck soccer, brother. Shout out to Sketch. What's up, brother? If you don't know Sketch, check him out on TikTok and YouTube. Very funny guy. Very funny character. Um I it's been an interesting week. It's been a busy week, y'all. Been a very busy week. Lots of content, lots of work outside, lots of wheeling and dealing, lots of negotiating, subociation. You know what I mean? Association. You know what I mean? Globlotiation. Scobloblotiation. So, you know, um, man, it's so crazy. Like when you know that you've got like, 7 to 10 straight days of busy, and like the first like day or two in, and you're like, fuck. And so it's just this like mental exercise of just going through each task. Okay, what's the next thing? All right, what's my next thing? All right, what's my next thing? And just trying to be as present as possible for all of it, so you know that you did quality work through all of that. Um, Especially when it comes to like, commuting with it and having to travel for it and all this kind of stuff. It's like, ugh. When you're in it, it's rough. And then when you get out of it, you're like, man, that was busy as shit. But like, there's some, I don't know. I don't know how to describe. I mean, if you've been really busy, I'm sure that you understand where you're just not even busy with like one thing or like one job, like, personal life, professional life, hobby life, your own personal business life. You know what I mean? Like, oh, and then, you're trying not to project any kind of frustration or like lack of sleep or uh, any kind of like anxiety that you might have about being so stressed or about what's coming up next or something that a mistake that was made or something like that. And so you do try and compartmentalize, and then that gets overstimulating because you're trying to compartmentalize, and then your brain also has to think like, okay, well, if this person's doing this thing that I think is annoying me, how much can I let the annoyance in? Because how much is this an obstacle of me trying to get done what I want to do, or is this something that is necessary to get the thing done, right? And so then, you had to balance out. All right, I'll pull it back a little bit, but I needed to know its urgency, so maybe I'll put a little bit in there. Just a little flavor of like, all right, like, come on, fine, that's fine. If you like, we're gonna do this. Come on, let's do this, kind of thing. Um, yeah. So very busy week trying to do stuff like that. But trying to keep it consistent with the content for you babies. So you guys can hear everything. Um I was what was I gonna say? Oh, dude. I went to Colorado recently. I was reading my notes, by the way, if anyone was wondering why I was staring at the screen. I went to Colorado recently, and I had to take a plane. Usually flying when I've flown in when I was a kid, I used to go a lot, and when I would fly into Colorado, usually when you fly into Colorado, there's a lot of turbulence, but it's really mostly when you fly into like southern Colorado kind of areas. The Rockies, having to fly over or through or near the Rockies, the wind starts to fuck up the plane. You get a lot of turbulence, you get a lot of shake and everything because like the wind tunnels are really weird. You have these like circular, what's it called? Like not breeze, but like circular, kind of like wind vortexes. There we go. And this time flying back to New York from Colorado, we got into like horrible turbulence. And when I was in it, like when the plane would dip, right? your stomach comes up to your throat and everything. When the plane would dip, these people would like have these like pulses of screams, like multiple people, right? And I was thinking, and I don't know why my my mind went to this, but I was like, there's a lot of fear on this plane right now. If you'd be able to use the fear, like you might be able to really do some shit, right? But then I thought, using fear, that's what they do in Monsters Inc. So it's like, why did Monsters Inc. I get that it's like a primal fear from kids because they don't know what's real and what's not. So the monster thing would be, a lot of fear in a room and in like an experience and a very concentrated thing. But also, why not put some of those sensors on like a plane and then just have it go through a bunch of storms and constantly go through turbulence? I feel like you've got so many people. If you get through like really bad turbulence, and that you hear those screams of not only kids but also adults who are like scared, right? Then I feel like you're harvesting a lot. I feel like you're harvesting a lot of fear. So maybe we should have thought about that, Disney. That's where that thought leads. Is maybe you should have thought about that. And because you didn't, Monsters Inc. suffered. And it will go down as a suffered piece of art. That's now my decision and my prediction. Um, it's weird with like air turbulence. What's the deal with air turbulence? No, um, it is weird with air turbulence in the plane because I feel like a lot of people have trouble flying, and I think about it sometimes, and I get like when you just it's like thinking about when you're skiing and you're like, well, I'm just controlled falling down a mountain, right, at my own pace, and And so when you're in the plane, to me, I'm like, I get really calm when I'm on the plane, especially when I'm in the air. Because at that point, what are you gonna do? What could you possibly control about the situation outside of, I don't know, jumping off the plane? Like there's no escape. Whatever happens, happens at this point because you've put your life in the hands of somewhat of the pilots and the flight attendants to make sure that you get around safely, make sure everything on the plane works and is operated correctly and that, so I don't really get that nervous. I don't think I ever really did as a kid cuz and also like when I land in a plane, I do this every time, and every time I tell someone about it, it freaks them out. So, or it didn't freak them out. They're like, "Why the fuck do you do that? That's an insane, like, what a morbid thing to do." But what I do is I will, when we're about to land, because usually I sleep through the flight because I tried to because I hate there's no reason for me to just sit here and do nothing, right? I'd rather just sleep, right? Um, and So when I wake up and we're about to land, out when we're getting close to the ground, it's so crazy because in the air is really the most dangerous place. Once you get closer to the ground, you're pretty good unless like something happens with like the landing gear and something malfunctions. But I will like just look forward. It's the other way around. Really? I have my off-screen person saying it's the other way around. Really? So the ground is more dangerous. Okay, I knew it. See, this is exactly why I do this. Don't ever question me again. So, most accidents happen on the runway and on takeoff and on landing. Wow. See, the more you know. I bet you didn't know that. Stupid. Shut up. Anyways, I will like basically look forward and sometimes I take off my seatbelt because I'm like, what difference would it make at that point, right? Um, it might make a difference. I don't know. But I will take off my seatbelt and just put my hands on the armrest and just look forward and just feel the shaking of landing and basically just look forward and anticipate the fireball that comes from the explosion of when we go nose straight into fucking concrete on the tarmac. You know what I mean? Um, which is like, I guess, a morbid thing. But to me, what it does is it keeps my expectations real, right? It makes me be like, all right, well, at least I didn't see it come. At least I didn't not see it coming. You know, I knew this might happen, but I'd rather, like, be aware of what's gonna happen and see it happen for those last moments, I feel like, because your brain's gonna have the DMT thing anyway, especially as you're burning to death if you aren't immediately eviscerated by shrapnel and any kind of, like, debris that would basically come decapitate you or, kinda hit you in a way that would kill you instantly. Um, I'd rather see the fireball. I'd rather I don't know, something about, like, death, I'd like to know I'd like for it to be quick, right? Everyone wants it to be quick, no one wants to suffer, but I'd like to know. Some people like to not know, and they're like, "No, I'd rather not know. If someone's gonna shoot me, I'd rather them just shoot me in the head, and then that's it. Like, that I don't have to know about what's gonna happen or, you know, I because I think having to realize the mortality is terrifying for some people, and for me, I'm like, "This is it. I'm gonna be sad. Don't get me wrong. It's not like a man on fire. Show me what you got, motherfucker. Like, it's not that. It's like, all right, well, like this is happening. This is it. This is the end. Now I get to think about everything that happened before and everything that's not going to happen in an instant of time. Uh, but that's part of living is like those last moments, especially when it's not like your time, as they say, for like old age and shit like that. It's that is living. That's part of living. Hurt and happy are both part of living, right? Experiencing is living because you don't, life doesn't necessarily have to be good in terms of you should try to make it good as possible, right? And you should work towards making it good for yourself and those you love and those you choose to make it good for. But life is not inherently good. Life just is. That's why there's no plan to it. That's why it's just what you make of it. And I can understand that, like, that's a lot when you look at a big picture or even when you look at a small picture. That can be a lot to take in and to try and fathom and to try and then act upon with all the variables of life and all the infinite uncertainty, the infinite known unknown of life, right? You know that you don't know things, and there's so many things that you don't know that sometimes it can be too much. But why not try to learn all of it that you can and understand that you're not gonna get to everything, but you can get to a lot, and then you can use a lot. And with using a lot, like being able to use that knowledge for a lot of things, you can choose to be someone who helps with it, who helps with that knowledge, whether it's passing it on or whether it's utilizing it then for something of the greater good kind of thing. Uh, but I can understand that that's a lot. And so I get that sometimes religion is easier or just having like a personal faith with some kind of deity helps with like not a release, but a comfort, let's call it. A comfort in feeling as though you know with certainty that there's this other thing that it leads to so that when you make a mistake, it's okay. It's easier to brush it off and be like, and instead of being like, all right, I'm going to make mistakes. Life is full of mistakes. That's part of this, and a part of the way that we as humans know how to learn and to develop our minds and to hone skills and stuff like that. It's easier than to brush it off and be like, "Well, that doesn't matter because this thing loves me and I give it in the name of this so that I feel as though that's the best that I can give it." Right? This makes me feel like I can put my best towards this and not, I guess, feel selfish or feel worthless, as though like the work isn't worth anything unless it's for something, which it could be for you. That's a big misconception of Satanism that people have. It's not like occult devil worship necessarily. Satan within Satanism is, worship of the self. Satan is the self and the earthly temptations. It's a pure secular kind of life. Although what's ironic about it is that they constantly talk about the Christian God, which is just hilarious. It's just like, well, then if it's about that, then shut up about that guy. You know? And when I read the Satanic Bible, I was, very interested to just read literature from other things and in the practical, very pragmatic sense, it makes it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice logic of like learn to it's like self care and like learning to love yourself, but in an obsessive narcissistic way. Really, it is where it becomes to the more you practice, the more you really read into those teachings. Because Sir Anton LaVey, the guy who created Satanism or who wrote the book, the Satanic Bible, was a narcissist. He was a huge fucking narcissist. I mean, he knighted himself. He wasn't an actual sir. He was knighted by no. He just called himself Sir Anton LaVey, right? And so don't be a Satanist. You know, don't really follow any kind of organized religion, in my opinion. Have a personal faith, read the teachings of a faith, but to give into an institution as though that institution actually speaks through this omnipotent being is interesting to say the least, I would say, in my opinion. But what do I know? You know, if that shit were true, I would absolutely look like a heretic. And I would, by definition, be a heretic, right? Okay. That's okay with me. Because even in the Bible, it's heretics survived constantly and thrived. You know what I mean? In those secular worlds that they themselves were not only accustomed to, but encouraged and sought out. So it's like, okay, well, you can still find success in being a heretic and in hearsay. Okay. That's fine with me. If it means that we're leaving each other alone, I can deal with that. If it means that we can leave each other alone, okay. But then if you do some fuck shit and I say you're doing fuck shit, you got to understand I'm coming from a place of like I believe in humanity, but that shit's not cool. It's not coming after your religion necessarily. It's saying that what you're doing as people in a secular sense is not cool. So maybe we don't do that part, right? Keep the faith, cool. But then also don't expect me to play by the same rules of like, well, it's justified in the faith because of this. But if I don't believe in that faith, then what does that matter? Then I'm only looking at it as, like I said, a practical, logical reasoning, secular perspective. Look at what you're doing and at least recognize it. And then we can move from there. Right. But rather than playing it off as like non believer, well, now I hate you. Now we're at war and now we're fighting and now we're both dying. Right. Dying in that like cool anime kind of like action movie thing where like we both fall to the ground at the same time. We either both have gunshot wounds, like stab wounds kind of thing. Almost West Side Story, but we both die in the Rumble fight rather than only one dying and then the next one dying later when he's shot to death by my best friend. And then it's like, well, we both died anyway. Why don't we just both die in the fight? Right? Both die with honor. So it's kind of like a ceasefire kind of thing. But, I didn't write it. I didn't write it. Thanks to Jerome Robbins and Bernstein and uh fuck, who's the other guy who wrote West Side Story? Shit. Leonard Bernstein, Jerome Robbins, and you don't know? Was Sondheim West Side Story? Let's see, guys. West Side Story, book by Arthur Lawrence. Lyrics by Stephen Sondheim. Wow. Based on a musical based on a conception of Jerome Robbins. And then orchestra and chorus conducted by Leonard Bernstein. What a fucking powerhouse team. But yeah, it was Sondheim, the lyrics and everything like that. But the book was that Lawrence jerk off. No, I'm kidding. Lawrence. Arthur Lawrence. I'm lamenting for Arthur. Okay, another thing I was thinking about is I know that I can be delusional about life sometimes, but my litmus for level of delusion and like what I would be willing to do. There are days where I wish I could be at wait. Oh, okay, here we go. I know I can be crazy sometimes and delusional about life, but at least I know I'm delusional. So when I'm being crazy, I'm like, well, I know that this is a crazy, like idealized version of reality or the world or this situation kind of thing. And I know that I'm coming at it from like a dude, you're being fucking delusional kind of place, right? There are days where I wish I could be at the point where I don't even think I'm being crazy. Like you really believe that shit. Some almost like not method acting kind of like thing, but like where you're like, no, this is true. No, this is really like I base my perspective and my um like perceiving the world with this as a like a given, as like a truth. It's like a ultimate, divine truth kind of thing. I wish I was kinda like the kind of belief that those morons have who do, like, 100 plus mile runs. What is wrong with you, dude? In what world do you think number 1, running is enjoyable to that level, and number 2, that it's necessary to do that? Because they constantly hurt themselves and, like, destroy their fucking bodies and are like David Goggins, who's like, "Oh, I went through, like, 3 tours and I did all this shit and I survived with, like, 4 broken ribs and blah, blah, blah." Yeah, and now you're having trouble walking, and guess what? First off, with the David Goggins thing, I gotta go on this little tangent real quick about David Goggins. This guy talks about being in the military all the time, but he was also in operations and in tours that explicitly failed their missions. So what did you really survive? You survived your own failures? You didn't thrive. You just like barely got out. But anyways, I don't even get into David Goggins. He's a moron to me. I get where he's coming from. I see what the intention is, and I see what like could be inferred from everything that he's doing. But the delivery is crazy, and the name calling is crazy because you are a psychopath, right? I'm not getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and jumping into ice. You're out of your fucking mind if you think that I would ever do that. Just saying. But the 100 plus mile runs, I think it's called like super marathons or like ultra marathons or some shit like that. Like, dude, I mean, or like swimming, like 15 miles or some shit. Like, what? Why? 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 I don't know. I go back and forth because it's like, that's a crazy thing to do. And that's what crazy people would do. But also, like, to push the human body to the limit is also astounding and quite awe-inspiring. It's like I get it, right? But also that is a level of delusion that I'm talking about where it's like I wish that I had that where it's like this is my truth. I'm going to do this insane thing because this is truly who I am and who I want to continue to be and who I want the world to see me as. That's insane. That's an insane thing. And part of me is like, "Oh, you're jealous." I'm not jealous. Um the only thing I would be jealous of would be the actual physical endurance. That's awesome. Your cardio must be crazy. You must have like a resting heart rate of like 16. You know what I mean? Um, Coming at 28 minutes. Yeah, we're about 30 minutes in. Hell yeah. But yeah, no, I don't think I would ever do something like that. I have said that I wanted to train for the New York Marathon, but also I'm terrible at running. I think I would rather do like biking. I'd rather like bike at the Appalachian Trail, right? I'd rather swim a long time or be able to do like power swimming. I've also been talking about like I want to get like a rock climbing membership to like a rock climbing gym. There's one by me that's really dope. Shout out to Metro Rock. It's super dope and they have a gym there. Um like it's not a lot. It's like one room and it's got like, two squat bars, a couple of benches and like some free weights here and there. And I would do supplemental stuff, but I really want to get good at climbing, get like really strong core and back and like arms, so I can really go for it like monkey style. And then on top of that, then do like boxing training, um, so that like I learn, really how to like fight well with the body that I have. Because I've done some, fight stuff, but I was also tiny, very different like proportions. So now it would be really cool and just become like a primal man basically. Just be able to climb really quick, really fast with a lot of weight. I don't want to get skinny like a lot of climber dudes are. I want to stay big. And so just compounding the arm, like just strength. They don't have to like get huge, but don't get super thin like a lot of those guys are because they try to shed weight so it's less work. Nah, nah, nah. I'm taking on the work. I'm going full gorilla time. Like I want to be like a representative that like if Homo sapiens from the past were to see us now, they'd be like, yeah, that's what we were going for. That's what we were going for. Because if you didn't know, Homo sapiens killed a bunch of other humanoid species, like Neanderthal and Homo erectus and shit like that. Super fucking crazy with history, but that's a whole other thing. Um, my last thing, real quick, fellas and ladies, and anyone who identifies as anything, it's your thing. I don't care. Be careful in a relationship because there's gonna get to a point where y'all gonna be comfortable and you're gonna be in love, and then you guys are going to do like a question game. And one of the questions that's gonna come up would be like, who is your hall pass, or who is like, the person, like the celebrity that like you would consider leaving me for. And then you do it in jest, right? You're like, obviously this is hypothetical, it's not real. Well, I asked, if I didn't want the answer, why did I ask, kind of thing. um Now granted, in this thing I'm talking about right now, I was not the one who brought up the question game. Just want to say, you know who you are. I did not bring up the question game. I was asked. I don't even remember who I said. Don't even remember if I came up with anything. Right now, I would say Salma Hayek. Hot. But I also wouldn't leave my girlfriend for that. Right. Um, my partner said that they would leave me for Dev Patel from Slumdog Millionaire. I didn't take that information well. One, because he's way more attractive than me. Huh? It's all good. One, because he's way more attractive than me. Two, because he's way more successful than me. And three, because he seems like a really cool guy. And now, these would be, if it wasn't going to be me that my partner was with, I would want them to be with someone like that because I think that hopefully he would treat them well. But also, fuck you, Dev Patel. Get the fuck away from my girlfriend. How about that? How about that, dude? Get away from me. Get out of my life. Step off. I'm done. If I see you, I'm going to say that you're my girlfriend's hall pass idea that she would want. And then we are going to have exchanging words. Okay? We're going to go blow for blow verbally, not physically. This is not a threat to you of assault or anything like that. Do not try to sue me for this if you were to ever see it, which I doubt you would because you seem cool and famous. So, just want to get out there on the record that Phil said, fuck Dev Patel, get away from my girlfriend. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. And Mrs. Partner Lady, you better watch out. Okay? That was really it. Real quick, I need to shout out my friends from Houston, Griffin, Colton, Chris, Ryan, and Grayson. Also shouts out to Trevor. There's a lot of white dude names. Okay? I had to do this because I told them I would shout them out because they've been the day ones. They are the ones who watch and listen to my podcast constantly and are the first ones to tell me that they listen to it right after it comes out. So shouts out to y'all. If you made it this far, let me know so you know that you got shouted out. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching this show and listening to everything. I hope you got done what you were supposed to get done today. Make sure to check me out at Mophead Records on Instagram. You can also follow the Bay One Podcast Network on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you know when we upload podcasts. Because as soon as they come out, they are hot and fresh and ready, just like little fucking Caesar's pizzas, baby. $5 a box, and you can get all up in this cheesy, gooey goodness. Okay? Make sure to check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Bay One Entertainment. You can also visit our website, bay1entertainment.com. Let us know if you need media needs or if you want to film a podcast. We got the equipment, we got the tools, we got the operators, we got the producers. Whatever you want to do, dude. But you must be in New York. I'll be honest with you. I'm not traveling for it right now because we don't have a car. So blah. If there's anything you want me to talk about or you just want to leave a nice comment, you can either comment or you can email me at phil@bay1entertainment.com. Make sure to check out the other shows on the Bay One Podcast Network. You can check out the Bowcast. You can also check out the CID or Chase's Dead podcast with me and Nick. Bowcast is with me, Nick, and Kevin. That is our executive podcast. We make executive decisions on there. You can watch us, tear ourselves limb from limb in front of you, in front of your eyes, and just make each other laugh and have fun. So, thank you guys again so much for watching the show. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.